Anyway, look, good win for Arsenal. The news has sort of moved on from that because William Saliba has agreed to sign a new 5-year deal. Harry Symeou is an Arsenal fan and broadcaster and friend of talkSPORT, of course. Harry, you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome.
No,
You're welcome.
always a pleasure. I like your work. That is very good news about William Saliba for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge news. I mean, for a while there's been a little bit of concern about whether or not he was going to sign a new deal. I know the club have always been sort of very steadfast in their kind of sort of approach to it and saying like, no, we're confident that this is going to happen. Those are the noises that have been coming out. But to actually hear that this is something that's very, very close now to getting over the line, I think is massive. It's a 5-year deal as well by the sounds of it. And I think it's a timely reminder actually of how much better things are at Arsenal are these days in comparison to maybe 3-4 years ago. Because here you've got one of the best and brightest young centre-backs in world football, and he's committed his best years to Arsenal. I think that's huge, and it says a lot in a week where there's been questions asked about whether or not Arsenal can get over the line, can take that next step. Fantastic news.
Yes, it is. I mean, I suppose it depends if there's a release clause and what the release clause is, doesn't it? It's clearly good. It's better than saying, no, thanks, I'm going to wait till my deal expires, because in 2 years, then he has the pick. But, there's always, it doesn't mean that Real Madrid go away. It's always right.
It makes him very expensive if you want to buy him, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the key, I think. It puts Arsenal in a really strong position if anybody like Real Madrid was to come sniffing. I would suggest that Real Madrid probably wouldn't be interested, though, at that sort of price point, because we've seen what Real Madrid do is they get in people's ears nice and early. They try and get them to maybe sort of drag out contract talks, hoping that they either get them in the final year or they get them on a free. That's kind of been the way they've operated quite a bit recently. Yes, of course, Real Madrid will spend big money from time to time, but I just feel like for Arsenal, it was about protecting the asset as much as it is keeping the player. And if you can keep doing that, then when you do lose players, and inevitably at some point you will, you can renew and you can refresh because you're going to get that huge financial reward.
All the talk about Arsenal now is sort of this idea that Arteta is just too core. He's very timid. He's scared to do anything, Harry. It's sort of slightly ludicrous given coming second is really hard. Like in a league where there are lots of really good players and good managers, it's like hard to do that. And there is every chance Arsenal will come second again. And of course, it is those tightest margins in those games. Did you come away from the Liverpool game thinking Arsenal, they were there for the taking, they didn't do it? Did you come away from the City game going, City defended and defended, we just couldn't break them down until that one moment of utter brilliance from Eze and Martinelli?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I've been totally satisfied with all of Arsenal's performances this season. I think it was always going to be that when you build a new attack, and Arsenal have had to use a new attack in most of their games because of injuries. There's no Odegaard, there's no Havertz. It's been Madueke from the right, it's been Eze from the left, and it's been Gyökeres through the middle. That's 3 completely new players. There was always going to be some teething problems, I think. Has Mikel Arteta been a little bit too pragmatic, is how I'd put it? Then probably. Like, I think you can make that case and I think you can make that argument, but without some players that are really good going both ways in sort of Havertz and Odegaard, I feel like he's had to choose between being maybe slightly too expansive and maybe being not expansive enough. And he's chosen to lean on the team's defensive strengths, which I think is fair enough, given that's been a big part of why Arsenal are where they are today. But what I can't take is some of the overreactionary nature of the response to this, because
overreaction.
It's crazy.
Harry, are you serious?
It's got to a ridiculous point now. I mean, I could easily sit here and make the case that Liverpool against Arsenal were equally as negative. A moment of brilliance from Dominic Szoboszlai decides the game. Manchester City, how can you not say that they were negative on the day, yet say that Arsenal are? That's the thing I find really strange. It's results-based analysis, which I get is always going to happen, but I think it's really, really top level. And actually, when you look at the fact that he's sometimes played with 2 attacking midfielders, Mikel Merino isn't a defensive midfielder. I think you can actually debunk that myth if you really sort of drill down into it.
And you've had a tough start. You've just mentioned you play Liverpool, Man City. You've had a really tough start in the
Newcastle at the weekend.
Newcastle at the weekend. It's another tough game. It perhaps could have done with playing some of those teams when the team's bedded in a bit.
Yeah, for sure. And look, you've got to play everyone. So over the course of the season, I'm sure it will even itself out a little bit. But if you'd have asked me at the start of the season, 5-6 games in, where I thought Arsenal would be, I would have said second, probably 3-4 points off of Liverpool, just comparing the fixtures of the two sides. It's turned out that it's a little bit worse than that. And at the moment, we're 5 points behind. And the game at Newcastle takes on huge significance now, even at this early stage, because if you lose and they win at Palace and you go 8 points behind, then you've got a problem. So I appreciate, like, it is a serious situation that Arsenal find themselves in, even at this stage in the season. But we were always going to be slightly off the pace, given the fixtures and all the other things we mentioned.
Yeah, and shame for Madueke, right, who started so well.
Really
There was obviously
well,
this weird sort of backlash from some people saying, "Oh, this guy isn't fit to wear the shirt."
There was a petition, Max. There was not a backlash. There was a petition.
But I don't know if you agree, Harry, and like me and Barry have talked about this a lot. You have to differentiate from online football fans and people who go to watch the full match, or just are genuine football fans who just don't yell all the time, because the loudest noises, the loudest voices make all the noise. I just feel for him, because he started the season so well for England and for Arsenal, to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Saka's there, so it's okay, but like, that is a real shame.
Yeah, you feel like when he was just building some momentum and he was kind of on the cusp of really sort of exploding as an Arsenal player, because for all the great performances, he's not scored yet, he's not assisted yet. So there were a couple of things that he could still do better. But I mean, for instance, the Forest game at home, you came away from that match saying comfortably he was the best player on the pitch. Now, Zubimendi got the man of the match that day because he scored twice, but Madueke was comfortably the best. So, you've got to feel for him, because, as you say, there was a horrible response to him signing. I was someone that was unsure about it. I'll hold my hands up, and I said, I'm not sure I'd spend 50 million on Madueke when we still need a striker and we still want to sign Eze. But it turns out Arsenal were able to do all of those things. You got to tip your hat to them. And once he became an Arsenal player, that's it. You bring him in and you get behind him. But on the point about sort of some of the online reaction, I just think the way that these social media platforms are designed now, they amplify the negativity, they amplify the noise. And I've found it really difficult this season, actually, to sort of differentiate sometimes between that and the real world. And to the point where after the game against Manchester City, I just chose not to go on it.
Yeah, just don't look at it. Yeah, I always think that. Just don't look at it. If you don't read it, it's not true. You've got a podcast, at Arsenal Podcast, Harry, as well as your talkSPORT stuff.
The Chronicles of a Gooness, an Arsenal podcast. We put an episode out daily, so check it out. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Daily? Wow, that's busy.
Daily, every day.
7 days a week?
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Holy moly. Never not talking about Arsenal.
Right, I've got to get my act together. Thank you, Harry. Good stuff.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, guys.
Harry Symeou there, Arsenal fan and broadcaster. Now, the countdown to the North West Football Awards is underway. talkSPORT supporting the events, this year's event once again. It'll take place in early November, where footballing legends, rising stars and community champions will come together to celebrate. You, the fans, have one last chance to have your say in selecting the winners in the public vote. If you type Northwest Football Awards public vote in your search engine and get voting before it closes at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Well done, Charlie. 4 bits. They're all good bits. Rupert the Bell joins us from New York. We'll talk Ryder Cup in just a second.
Ryder Cup chat.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.